Kenya is not asleep anymore, and the clergy is not backing down on its quest for a better nation, keeping President William Ruto in check and using their influence on the pulpit to drive change and better governance. The events of last year left the church with no option but to push for the good of the country, with the congregation taking charge and declaring that politics have no place in the pulpit. The wave saw many churches and preachers cave into pressure, criticizing the government and locked politicians from the pulpit, while some preachers have relapsed and turned the pulpit into a battleground for politicians. A few have stayed faithful to the cause, using their voices to hold the government of the day accountable and locking politicians out of the pulpit. Some have taken it a step further and boldly returned empty sums of money donated by politicians, some of whom have been implicated in scandals. Well, we start with Archbishop Anthony Mueria, who is stinging truth and ruffling feathers of Kenya's political elite. The Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Nyeri has been consistent in speaking truth to power, expressing his mind and amplifying that Kenyans from thought provoking sermons to bold statements calling out the political class. He has endeared himself to Kenyans who view him as a true patriot who can be counted on to speak when it matters. His diplomatic yet firm demeanor makes him deliver even the hardest punches in a way that reaches the intended targets, as evidenced by the flurry of responses that they attract from political class. Most recently, he slammed President William Ruto for his frequent promises, noting that the government is not an advertising agency. He said, government is not an advertising agency, it is an agency that implements actions. That's what we want to see. Stop advertising what we should do, will do, or have done. Instead, focus on mobilizing people, resources, and experts. We have great capacity, even within our leadership in government, to deliver, especially for the poor. The second man of God that has been vocal about the reason the current government is Apostle James Maina Nganga. Neno Evangelism Center's Apostle James Nganga captured the attention, or rather the hearts of many at the height of the Gen Z protests that took place last year in July. The controversial preacher is known to speak when it matters the most, amplifying the concerns of Kenyans as the youth took to social media in protest before eventually taking it to the streets. Pastor Nganga is on record trailing his guns on a section of politicians who he accused of misleading President William Ruto. He cautioned that the trend could see the regime crumble, and not long afterwards, protests broke out in the country. His sermons, laced with political comments, saw him celebrate the firing of President Ruto's cabinet, reminding his congregants of his previous prophecy that certain people were misleading the government. The third person who is also very vocal when it comes to Kenyan politics and especially the current regime is Archbishop Philip Anyolo, and he has in the past rejected Ruto's expensive car gift and ordered return of millions. For years now, Archbishop Philip Anyolo of the Nairobi Archdiocese has refused to dine and wine with political elites, making his stand known. He is on the record directing hefty donations to be returned to politicians and rejecting an expensive SUV that was gifted to him by President William Ruto when the latter was still serving as the deputy president. At the time, he said, the church is called to uphold integrity by refusing contributions that may inadvertently compromise its independence or facilitate unjust enrichment. Political leaders are urged to demonstrate ethical leadership by addressing the pressing issues raised by the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. Archbishop Maurice Muhatia of Kisumu is also very vocal about President William Ruto's regime. President William Ruto has not had it easy with the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops either. Archbishop Maurice Muhatia of Kisumu led in the criticism and read the statement calling out President William Ruto's administration for what they term a deeply entrenched culture of lies, corruption, unfulfilled promises, and misplaced priorities, from the chaos in the education sector to the confusion that characterized SHA and the abductions. Archbishop Maurice Muhatia had no kind words for Ruto. He said, "Who is abducting these people, and is the government unable to stop these abductions and killings?" Stephen Dicho and Pentecostal churches have also had a say in the matters concerning the current regime. The political developments in the country have also seen the Akorino Church call out the head of state for prioritizing church donations over addressing key national concerns. Through their chairman Stephen Dicho, the clergy celebrated the decision by Archbishop Philip Anyolo of the Nairobi Archdiocese to return hefty political donations. They said, "We commend Archbishop Anyolo for ordering the refund and return of money donated by President William Ruto to the Soweto Catholic Church last Sunday. This action has effectively eliminated the Judas spirit of the clergy receiving bribes from politicians to influence their thinking and action." Well, with the congregation politically informed and impacted by the decision made by the government, the clergy has had no option but to speak one language with their flock.